Brace yourselves for the thrilling showdown between India women and Australia women in the decisive third T20I in the vibrant city of Navi Mumbai. The clash marks the culmination of Australia's riveting three-week tour to India, kicking off with a gripping one-off test in December 2023. The series took an electrifying turn on January 5 when the Indian women's team dominated the opening T20I, securing a commanding 9-wicket victory with 14 balls to spare. The dynamic duo of star openers Smriti Mandhana and Shafali Verma stole the show with dazzling half-centuries. Young pacer Tita Sadhu added to the spectacle with a phenomenal performance, dismantling the Australian batting lineup with astonishing figures of 417. However, India's soaring momentum hit a snag in the following T20I, leading to a series-levelling encounter. The Australian women's team, reeling from a humiliating 9-wicket defeat, made a spectacular comeback with a 6-wicket win. In her 300th international appearance for Australia, Elise Perry showcased a run chase masterclass, supported by the bowling brilliance of Annabel Sutherland, Kim Garth and Georgia Warham. Now, all eyes are on the series decider as the world champions aim to conclude their tour on a triumphant note and uphold their esteemed world champions tag. Hello and welcome to Rev Sports. It's going to be a thrilling encounter tonight as Australia and India take on each other for the final time in the series. And it also happens to be the series decider. It's going to be an important game for the two teams. A lot will depend on tonight's result. Australia will be looking to get back to their top tier form, and India will be looking for some redemption after a few humiliating losses. We'll get to discussing all that. I am Gargi Raut, and joining me for today's show are Ishan Shahane from the DY Patil Stadium, Trisha Ghoshal, and Raja Raman. Ishan, you're here, but I think there's some network issues, but we'll go back to the toss update. Australia has won the toss and decided to bowl first. Trisha, looking at that reaction, you're not too happy about that.
Yeah, because I think last match the dew wasn't that big a factor because what is that called? Dew something was used. That's why there was no the dew factor didn't play a big role as such, and the wicket didn't ease out or the ball wasn't really difficult to hold. Having said that, I think in these slow pitches, it's always difficult to set up a target because when you're setting a target, you will be looking at 6-7 runs per over or 8 runs per over, and it's not easy to get that. 1 or 2 bad overs and complete pressure on the batting lineup. Also, the other thing is we are not that great at setting totals. We have been good whenever it has come to chasing. If you see someone like a Smriti Mandhana, she has played superbly when we have chased. So taking all this into account, I think I'm a little unhappy and also a little anxious that we have lost the toss.
I mean, yes, and Raja Raman, it's going to be it's an important toss to lose, isn't it? Because this is the one you needed to have because India is not very good at putting on the total, putting the runs on the scoreboard first. What are your thoughts now that India has lost the toss?
I think India should never think too much about the toss in a 40-over game. Toss does play a role, but it's not in your control, Gargi. And if the Indian team learns to not think on these lines and take the toss out of the equation and do the best it can under whatever circumstances, batting first or bowling first, I think the women's team can then become world beaters. They have been beaten at home in the one-day series, and they're not going to like that very much. So they will be keen on winning tonight. And if you start thinking about the toss and what happened at the toss, then you're kind of losing momentum already. I think Harmanpreet and the rest of them should focus on doing a good job come the 40 overs and then try and win this game so that they can end this tour of Australia to India on a winning note. They started off with a great win in the test match, and they need to finish with a T20 international series win at least. Losing the one-day international was not the best advertisement for the Indian women's team. I hope they have the intensity over the 40 overs to win tonight.
Yes, and Trisha, again, India is not very good at putting that total on the scoreboard. But how confident are you feeling about this batting lineup? Does it invoke a lot of confidence in you?
I think one thing good that I have seen in these three T20Is at least, that we have not changed the playing 11. It has been unchanged, which means, because again, there's one more important aspect here. Of course, batting first is something that we have to get used to. I completely agree with Raja on this, that while sitting here and probably discussing the toss is a completely separate thing, but on the field it should not matter, because then psychologically you are already putting yourself one step behind, which you cannot afford to do against a side like Australia, which are, I would say, already two steps ahead of you. So you have to go there and play your best cricket for the next 40 overs, whether you're batting or bowling. And when it comes to batting, I think, Gargi, the approach has to change a little. um, and instead of, because we have seen the wickets are slow, we saw the 130 odd can be very difficult. So instead of going, all guns blazing and losing wickets right at the top, we should try and build the innings that way. 8 runs per over, if you actually see 6 7 runs per over, is not that tough. you know in the sense, what I mean is, you can also take it in singles, you can get those doubles. So I think India has to do certain aspects a little better, and I think the number one part would be the running between the wickets. That has to improve. And in slow wickets, I think with the Indian bowling lineup, it's not that bad.
Yes, and Raja, we keep talking about this match being an important match for the Indian team, but it's also an important match for the Australian side because they haven't been playing their best cricket, have they, recently? And they will look to get this series, to win this series as a confidence boost.
Absolutely. They will want to go home with both the white ball series in their pocket. Taking the trophies home will be a priority for them. But Australia is easily one of the best teams in the world, no matter what the format. They would have been shocked at losing the Test match to India. But Australia has a competitive side, not just in women's cricket or in men's cricket, but in any sport and in across format. Australia is very, very competitive, and they will want to give their best. And the toss has gone their way. They made the best decision under the circumstances, but India will have to try and stop Australia from going home with that victory. It's important for someone like a Harmanpreet to find the touch. I won't say form because she's been in pretty poor form, but I'm hoping that she will find the touch tonight and take the Indian team forward. A lot of questions have been asked about her batsmanship. There have been questions about her captaincy. I'm hoping to see her bowl a couple of overs. She won the Test match with a magical spell, didn't she? I haven't seen her bowl much in the white ball format. She can try her hand on a slow track. She might make the difference, especially when the ball becomes a little before the ball becomes a little wet. If she can turn her arm over a couple of overs, I think it can make a big difference. You must disrupt the thinking process of the Australians. You must put them under pressure. That's the only way India can beat Australia, because Australia does crumble under pressure. And I think it's important for Harmanpreet tonight to lead from the front and to forget everything else that has happened in the past and to play the best innings of her life tonight.
Yes, and another big milestone after Elise Perry's 300th game for Australia, Alyssa Healy is playing her 150th Women's T20I, and she is the only Australian woman to do so. Trisha, talk about that. Alyssa Healy is such a big name in women's cricket, in cricket overall, and now coming in with that captaincy, she's been incredible.
Gargi, Alyssa Healy is a huge name in women's cricket, I think, and that has been because of her performances, because she's that kind of a player. On her day, she's gonna ruin the opponents, the opponent's bowling figures. Thankfully, India has been successfully able to keep her quiet, apart from that one third ODI. And I'm hoping, even though it's her 150th match, and I myself have been a huge fan of her battership, you know, uh, yeah, her battership. But I don't think I want to see that on display today, at least. Um, on the captaincy point though, I think she has a long way to go, but it has been a huge year for Alyssa Healy, to think of succeeding someone like a Meg Lanning, and then your 150th T20I. I think it's a big occasion, and unfortunately for India, Healy is known to rise to big occasions. So yeah, I think again, as I said, Alyssa Healy always reminds me of, I don't know what will Raja sir say, but I think Alyssa Healy always reminds me of Adam Gilchrist, in the sense, the way she approaches her game, the way she comes out all guns blazing, and in spite of whatever the pitch, the conditions, the runs, she's always, she has that intent of putting the pressure back to the opponent. So yeah, I think I'm looking forward to the game, and I'm hoping, as an Indian fan, that Healy doesn't do much in her 150th T20I.
Raja, Alyssa Healy remind you of Adam Gilchrist as well?
No, I think we must not do any comparisons. We'll be being unfair to both of them. Trisha, I'm sorry, not getting into that
No.
argument. But Ellis Healy has been terrific as a cricketer, as an ambassador for the sport, as an ambassador for the nation. I think she's loved, much loved across the cricket fraternity, and I think that is one of the greatest things any cricketer will want, apart from the runs and wickets and the catches and the stumpings. All they would want is the respect of the opposition, and she has earned that. I think that I think is the biggest achievement for her, and it should be for any cricketer. And she's, like I said, she's a fantastic ambassador for her sport and for her country. And long may she continue to play for Australia.
Yes,
Gargi,
Ishan.
can I add one thing?
Yes,
I
of
just want
course.
that, now when you talk about Alyssa Healy, you can always remember her taking a picture of the Indian team, having lost that test match as a captain. To do that, it was that was such a good um advertisement of the sport, of what sports person should be like. Of on field rivalries are different. And also, I love the line when she said, I don't think they're gonna use the picture because I think I've cut a few players. So is such a
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that was a great show of sportsmanship. But finally, a man on ground, Ishan Shahane, is here. And I think, Ishan, there might be a little something wrong with your camera. Oh, those are the lights. Okay, no worries.
Those are the
Nothing wrong.
lights. Yes, yes.
Yeah, nothing wrong with your camera. But tell us about the atmosphere here. We've been looking
Yep.
at the visuals. So many fans still backing the Indian team, even after
Yes.
those, that series loss, that second T20I loss. Talk about the atmosphere.
Yes, Gagi. The atmosphere is amazing. But I have to mention, I think the crowd build-up that was here on Sunday was relatively more. I'm surprised in a way because there is a crowd build-up here, but Sunday was a whole nother ball game. It was just crazy on Sunday. At the moment, there is a crowd build-up. It's not as much. I was thinking it would be possibly exceeding the crowd that was on Sunday because it's a decider. But having said that, there is that crowd which is still supporting the girls, and that's so good to watch. I think DY Patil has not disappointed. This is a place where a crowd build-up is usually seen, and it's really good to watch. And a big match coming up, and the crowd's really excited, obviously. Everyone's nervous, excited, a mix of feelings for everybody, but I think they all are backing the girls here.
And we were talking about Alyssa Healy here because it's her 150th T20I in women's cricket, and she is also the first Australian woman to do so. Talk about her. You've seen her captaincy closely. Being a cricketer, you can tell, what the difference is between women captains and Alyssa Healy.
Yes, Gagi. I think she brings a wealth of experience into the game, and she hasn't been in the best of form. But lately, while performing against India, even in the ODIs, she's gotten her form back. She's getting in the groove, and she's leading from the front. So obviously, it's about the intent. We've spoken about intent on the show before, and as a captain, Alyssa Healy, she's been leading with a lot of intent, which is absolutely necessary. So I think I'd mentioned Harmanpreet Kaur should take some inspiration from her. I'm not sure if she's going to do that or not tonight. We can only wait and watch. But just amazing, leading from the front and putting the intent out there that we want to win. So they lost that first game, then coming back and winning the second game with fairly easily. That shows a top side with the captain who's leading from the front.
Absolutely. And when we have to talk about Indian cricket now, focusing our attention, it came to my attention that the Indian team plays their next game 8 months later. I mean, how can an international team get so little games and then also be expected to, uh, come up good against teams like Australia? Of course, they're not going to be at that level if that they're not getting that kind of games. Trisha.
I think this has happened in women's cricket for over the years. Somehow but back then WCA didn't have that much money. I'm sure now this 8 months that we are seeing is because maybe the tours haven't been planned yet. I genuinely don't think in a World Cup year we'll see a 8 months gap. In this 8 months gap also there is the WPL, and I'm quite sure, as I said, before Asia Cup, the 8 months gap that you were saying is when we play the Asia Cup. I think before Asia Cup, we will definitely have bilaterals. If not one, I'm sure we'll have two bilateral series, because in any other year, I would still understand. But in a World Cup year, I'm quite sure that BCCI is more aware than us that it's a World Cup year and they'll take proper steps. Because otherwise we will be underprepared for the World Cup. And of course, BCCI is not going to send the team underprepared. So I'm rest assured that it's not there in the calendar, but we will soon see probably after the WPL a few more series.
Raja, we saw a bit of slack in the Indian team when it came to fielding, the basics of it all. And we also saw that India in the middle overs with the ball was really, not up to their game as they should have been. How do you think, what should today the Indian team do differently in their bowling and fielding strategy to put more pressure on the Australian batting lineup?
Gargi, I think it boils down to what Amol Majumdar would have said to the team just as it entered the play field. I think it's important for the team to find the intensity. Some of it has been lacking. There has been inconsistency as far as intensity is concerned. I think it's one of the key factors. Besides your skill, of course, beside the talent that God has gifted you, it's very important for players to be intense on the field, to expect the ball to come to you every single time, to be ready for that, to anticipate, to want it to happen. I think that kind of passion, that kind of intensity somehow has been missing from this Indian side for a while now. I'm hoping that tonight I will be proved wrong, that they will discover the intensity that can make the difference between winning a tight game and losing a tight one. I think it's important for India to first tell itself that yes, we can win this game. Australia can be beaten. We have beaten Australia in a test match. We've beaten them in a one-day international, and we've beaten them in a T20 international as well. Now, when you tell yourself that, you are kind of reasserting to yourself that you can be competitive, especially because you're playing at home. I think it's important that they retain that intensity, find it first, and then retain it for 40 overs to try and win the game tonight.
Ishan, how do you, as the Indian batting lineup, negate the bowling of Annabelle Sutherland, Georgia Warham, and Kim Garth?
Obviously, all of them are top-class bowlers. So it comes down to, I think, choosing your bowler in this sort of situation. You have to make sure and figure out who's not in form on this particular night. And I'm sure there'll be someone who possibly will slack. So the Indian batters will have to make sure to attack that particular bowler, because all of them are top class on the given day. But if you want to step out and do well as a batting unit over here, it's about choosing the bowlers to attack at this DY Patil pitch. So I think that should be the game plan. And again, I think when they go to bat, I think it's important that every batter has their own a particular game plan when they do that, because you don't want two batsmen going out at a strike rate of 150. You want someone anchoring the innings while someone else is taking on the attack. So it's about smart cricket and understanding which bowler to possibly attack.
Risha, who do you think the key Indian players could be so that they end up winning the game tonight?
I think among the bowlers will definitely be Titash and Deep T. Shriyanka. because they have been good. Deepti has been exceptional throughout the all three formats for India. And in batting, I think Jemima would be very important. Jemima, Smriti. I would want Shafali to perform, but going by recent form, I'm not 100% sure. If it's a good day for Shafali or a bad day for Shafali. So, but then Smriti and Jamima would be extremely important, and so will be a strong finish from Pooja. So they will be key. I know I'm not taking Harman's name because um, I don't know. I mean, she has not been consistent at all for me to place my confidence in her. But I do know that Gargi, even without Herman performing, this lineup can, can score, like can put up a total which is defendable. And I would ideally want them to do so. I mean, I don't mind Herman performing, but even if Herman doesn't perform, I want these 4, 5, 6 players to stand up and perform to their potential.
Yes, and after the second T20I, there was something that happened that personally made me a bit upset because Raja, and this question is to you. Harmanpreet Kaur came out in the post match, and while talking about the defeat and all of that, she's particularly pointed out Shreyanka Patil, a 19-year-old, about how she hasn't done well and didn't do well in that particular game. I've never seen that before personally happening, and if I, as a cricketer, that happened to me, and my senior, someone who's been a legend of the game, captain, said that to me on air in front of millions of people, that would really hamper my confidence.
Of course, it would, Gargi. Uh, I'm not too sure what frame of mind Harmanpreet was in when she spoke about this young cricketer. She should have looked at the mirror a little bit, looked at her own form, looked at her own inconsistencies, and then opened her mouth. I think a good leader is somebody who puts his or her hand up and says, "Yes, I have not been at the best I can be. It's time for me to step aside from captaincy and find my batting." I've seen several Indian cricketers, both men and women, sometimes struggle with their form. And one of the solutions has been to move away from leadership positions and find the batting mojo. I think it's important for Harmanpreet to first look deep within herself. She's been a fabulous cricketer. I'm not sure I will call her a legend yet, but she's been fabulous for India. She must go back to hitting the ball the way she can. Um, I haven't seen her hit the cricket ball, in a long time, in the manner in which she can. I watched her at the Asian Games. I watched, of course, she wasn't able to play the first two games. She came in for the final, and I don't think she played a good innings there. On a difficult track, the ball was keeping low at the Asian Games. And whatever we watched of Harmanpreet is not the Harmanpreet we know. I'm hoping that she will discover that Harmanpreet and maybe put a hand around the young cricketer's shoulder, Shriyanka, and tell her that, look, this is what I told the media, but you're a very important player for me. You're young and you're the future of Indian cricket. I'm sure this kind of a leadership experience that Harmanpreet has had will go a long way in helping her become a better cricketer and perhaps a better person than she has come out to be at that point of time. People make decisions, Gargi, under pressure, and perhaps that one decision to identify a young cricketer and name her as not being at the best of form is probably an error on her part. She probably made this mistake because she's under tremendous pressure herself.
Absolutely. And, I'd like to bring up a topic from men's cricket right now because India versus South Africa series, that was a blockbuster series, even though it ended in a draw, India losing one, South Africa losing one. But then when we talk about that pitch, which was clearly not up to the standards of Test cricket, today the ICC ratings came out and it was rated unsatisfactory. Ishan, what are your thoughts? Do you think it should have been rated poor? Because that's what a lot of people think.
To be honest, I think it should have been rated poor because obviously, it wasn't easy. Like it wasn't easy for both sides, right? When they went out to bat. So, I mean, it can be a debatable topic here because there will be some people who might argue that it was just a poor wicket altogether, while some might just say it's unsatisfactory. eventually it boils down to the players what they felt when they went out to play, because it's them who are out there who are actually experiencing playing in those conditions. So, in my opinion, it probably was a little bit poor. They could have done a better job because it's a big test match, it's a big test series. It doesn't happen too often. So obviously you want to give out the best conditions to the players, which wasn't provided. But I think at times, mistakes can happen, and probably the ground staff didn't take account for the situation at that particular time, which resulted in a poor wicket. But overall, I think it is disappointing because an India-South Africa Test series doesn't happen so often, and you wanted perfect conditions which weren't available.
Yes, and in 5 minutes the match will start, so I'll need quick predictions from all of you. Raja, why don't you go first?
But before that, I would just want to add a little bit about
Yeah.
the pitch in Newlands. I'm quite upset because for a spinning track where the ball is spitting off the pitch a little bit, there is a little bit of variable bounce. The ball is not bouncing on your face. The ball is not hitting your glove at chest height. And for that, you rate pitches poor. How can you not rate Newlands as a poor pitch? It defies understanding. Now, to get back to the match, I'm hoping for an India win, Gargi, as always. I'm hoping that the captain will prove to be the leader tonight, both when batting and then when she leaves the team on the field. I'm hoping that the team will find that intensity and go on to make a match of it and beat Australia one more time.
Trisha, prediction.
I'm hoping India wins, but to be very honest, my heart says India, but my mind says Australia. Again, 70-30 Australia.
Okay, Ishan.
Yeah, it's the same here, Gagi. I'm hoping for an India win, but I think the crowd might end up disappointed because if you give the Aussies a sniff, they're not going to let you go. And unfortunately, we've given them that sniff in the last game. So it's going to be a hard game, but let's hope for the best. But I feel the Aussies might end up winning this one.
Oh, let's see if Ishan is India's
Gagi,
lucky charm. Sorry?
your prediction.
My prediction. I think Australia. If India had batted first, fielded first, I think I would have gone with India. They would have had a chance, but just because that they lost that toss, I think it's going to be Australia. But anyway, let's see if Ishan is India's lucky charm when he goes into that stadium and India win. We'll find out soon enough. Till then, stay tuned to Ref Sports.